the bright as the morning star. We told you he's a lily down in the valley, and he's bright as the morning star. You know that he's a lily down in the valley. Well, he's a bright as the morning star. We're singing amen, 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 amen. We tell you about a lily down in the valley. Well, he's the bright and the morning star. We know that there's a lily down in the valley. Yeah, he's the bright and the morning star. We're talking about a lily down in the valley. Well, he's the bright and the morning star. We're singing amen, 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 amen. We gotta find some love down in the valley. Well, he's the bright and the morning star. We gotta find some love down in the valley. Well, he's the bright and the morning star. We ought to find some love down in the valley. Well, he's the bright and the morning star. We're singing amen, 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 amen. And then we'll find some peace down in the valley. Well, with the bright and the morning star. Everybody find some peace down in the valley. Well, with the bright and the morning star. Oh, what about some peace down in the valley? Well, with the bright and the morning star. We're singing amen, 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 amen. We're talking about our Jesus down in the valley. Hey, he's the bright and the morning star. You know we're talking about our Jesus down in the valley. Because he's the bright and the morning star. You know I'm talking about my Jesus down in the valley. Well, because he's the bright and the morning star. We're singing amen, 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 amen. Because he's a lily down in the valley. Yes, and he's a bright and the morning star. We're talking about a lily down in the valley. Because he's a bright and the morning star. We're talking about a lily down in the valley. Well, because he's a bright and the morning star. We're singing amen, 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 amen. Just call him up. 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 Just call him up.
Why don't you stop hesitating? I know God is waiting, so call him up in prayer. Call him up, call him up, call him up, and tell Jesus what the problem is. And you just call him up, I know he will lead you in need. Everybody just call him up, I know he will cast away your doubts and fears. Why don't you stop hesitating? I know God is away. Well, if you will call him up in prayer. And the brothers say, call him up, just 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 call him up. Soprano say, call him up, just call him up, just call him up, just call him up. Altos, alto sing. Yeah.
Just talk him up.
Tennis.
Just talk him up.
Sound beautiful.
Just talk him up.
Everybody.
Just
Call him up, call him up, call him up, and tell Jesus what the problem is. And you just call him up, I know he will lead you in need. Well, if you just call him up, I know he will cast away your doubts and fears. Why don't you stop hesitating? I know God is waiting, so call him up in prayer.
In the church, amen. Amen. I sure need his spirit. Amen. Amen. I apologize for my tardiness this morning. Cherie and I tried to be young last night, and we ate dinner at about 8:45, and it did not agree with the preacher this morning. Praise the Lord. All kind of bacon wrapped peppers with cheese in it, and we finished it off with some cheesecake. And this morning I woke up calling the name of the Lord. Text Jones, I said, I ain't gonna be there no time soon. Just tell him to keep singing, Doc. I'm in need of the Lord right now. And so I wasn't sure, but the Lord gave me strength. I called my doctor this morning. That is my mama. And she had to tell me what to do and what to go get and everything else to get me through. We affectionately call her Daly's night nurse because my mother worked in the pediatrics office for about 10 years as a medical assistant, and so she knows all of the baby medication to get, so I had to call Daly's night nurse. And so I could make it here this morning. She told me, she said, don't do all of that jumping around and shouting this morning. Just go speak a little bit and go sit down somewhere. So I said, Mom, what if the spirit gets me? Well, she said, control the spirit this morning. So I'm going to say to you what a lot of husbands have had to tell their wives. This morning I shan't be long. Judges chapter number 3. I laugh because they know it's true. Y'all don't make me laugh and it'll upset my stomach. Amen. Y'all know since I've been intermittent fasting, I don't eat after 6 o'clock, so it's like a shock to my system. Y'all know I've lost about 40 pounds. Is the Lord good? I got to admit, Sister Ganhart tried to get me to do this 20 years ago, and I didn't do it, and then I finally did it. Sister Ganhart, it absolutely works. I feel great. I look great. I'll tell you a funny story while you get in Judges chapter 3. The prosecutor's office asked me to come to a vigil for a child who was tragically killed. And when I showed up to the vigil, I knew everybody there, but nobody spoke to me. Then finally somebody says, when is Pastor Mims coming? And then one of the ladies who works with me very closely, her name is Marilyn. Marilyn said, that's him right there. And they go, no, that can't be him. He's a lot bigger. Judges chapter number 3 and the verse, I'm going to begin in verse 20. Yeah, that's works. Verse number 20, what version is that? ESV. I'm going to switch real quick. Y'all give me a quick second. Okay, verse number 20 says, and Ehud came to him as he was sitting alone in his cool roof chamber. And Ehud said, I have a message from God for you. And he arose from his seat, he being the king of Moab. And Ehud reached with his left hand, took the sword from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly. And the hilt also went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade. For he did not pull the sword out of his belly, and the dung came out. Then Ehud went out into the porch, closed the doors of the roof chamber behind him, and locked it. That in your Bible? I want to preach from the next few moments from the subject, God's Assassin. You may be seated in the presence of God. This is our part 4 and final sermon, and the Lord moves in mysterious ways. Obviously, next Sunday is Easter, so I'm going to do some kind of Easter message. But on today, commonly, affectionately called as Palm Sunday, which is the beginning of the week in which Jesus goes on to be crucified and everything else. Normally we would have had Passion Week, etc., etc. Which we'll bring it back next year. But in this particular text, it's very interesting. I've been on this series about the Lord moving in mysterious ways to show you that often what we think about the Lord is not always the case. And that is to say that sometimes the Lord will go around and up and underneath what we think should happen, even sometimes seemingly to contradict even his own rules. Yeah, I'm even struggling to talk. We're going to really make this quick. So as we look at this text, I'm sorry, did you get a chance to get my slide? Let me pause. Get my slide up. Get the one I told you. I need to make an announcement. This is my grill off menu. I just want to make sure before I go into this, y'all know how I'm coming through in about a month from now. At the church grill off. Y'all see, I'm going to have some baby back ribs, steakhouse, and whiskey burgers. Don't worry, you save people the whiskey will burn off. I keep the bottle in the back. I'm going to put some bratwurst on there because Daily loves bratwurst. And then I'm going to give you a little, you got to have a little surf and turf. So I'm going to give you some little lobster tails and maybe a few other surprises And I want to make this proclamation now so Roten knows he's not coming for my title. Everybody look at Brother Roten and say, don't mess with the preacher's title. I just want y'all to know this. You, Jameer, trying to come through with the ribs, all y'all, my ribs gonna be better than all of y'all. Brother Waddies, I hate to do this to you, but yours too. Now, you may have 50 years of experience on me, but the Lord moves in mysterious ways. I just want to make sure y'all understand this. So y'all come on by my tent. I'm telling you, I may even pull a meat truck out just so I can keep going. Amen. Amen. But I wanted y'all to know this so y'all can, so all the fellas, you get yourself together and get prepared to get smoked, literally. All right, you go back to the subject. Go back to the subject. Make sure I know that. Brother Ganhart, I'm looking at you too. I know how you try to be doing briskets and all that. You come on. Youngest one on the grill, but I'm coming through. All right, y'all. Judges chapter number 3. Let me give you this mess. I'm only going to be about 15 minutes. So as you look at this text, to be completely honest with you, what brings this text to mind, what I began to think about was our old friend from history called Nat Turner. You guys remember Nat Turner? Nat Turner was a black slave in the Americas during the time of slavery who was also a preacher. Nat Turner read his Bible and determined that it was right and proper to rise up against your enemies in such a way where it became a violent uprising. He killed some 50 plus white planters and their families, and of course, he was eventually caught and killed and everything else. And what brings to mind this is there was a reason why during American slavery, when they would give slaves a Bible, they'd rip out certain places in the Bible. This, of course, being one of the passages you don't ever want your slave to read. Israel had been disobedient. They'd come into the land of promise, and they had began to take other wives and to worship gods of the Canaanites and the Hittites and all these other kind of folk. And the Lord saw fit to punish them by allowing them to be conquered by another land momentarily. And so they cry out earlier in Judges chapter number 3, and the Lord delivers them. And then they forget the Lord again, and they go back and they become disobedient all over again. Y'all know it's human nature that we go from trusting the Lord to doubting the Lord, and then back to trusting the Lord, and then back to doubting the Lord. So then the Lord decides to do the same thing again, is that he takes the Moabites and he allows them to conquer Israel. Y'all meet me in verse number 12. And I'm going to give you a little bit of this background. I'm going to give you a few points, and then we're going to take our seat. Verse number 12 says, and the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He gathered to himself the Ammonites and the Amalekites, and went and defeated Israel, and they took possession of the city of palms. And the people of Israel, y'all see Palm Sunday, I'll keep it in there. And the people of Israel served Eglon the king of Moab 18 years. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. Watch this, y'all. And the Lord raised up for them a deliverer. I want y'all to see this. Ehud, the son of Gera, the Benjamite, a left-handed man. Y'all underline left-handed. He's a left-handed man. Benjamites were known to be ambidextrous. They could use either the left or the right hand. But there's something different about Ehud. The people of Israel sent tribute by him to Eglon, the king of Moab. And Ehud made for himself a sword with 2 edges, a cubit in length, and he bound it on his right thigh under his clothes. Now, before I go any further, I want you to understand Ehud has a disability. When the text says he's left-handed, it is implying that there is something wrong with his right hand. He has a disability. He cannot use his right hand the way most people do. The Benjamites were ambidextrous, but Ehud was not. Unfortunately, he had an issue with his right hand. Normally what you would do if you were about to be checked by someone, or if a security guard was checking you, you would bind your sword on your left because they figured you pull with your right hand and pull out your sword from your left side. Ehud in this particular case puts his sword on his right because there's something wrong with his right hand. He needs to be able to pull with his left. Are y'all with me? So God raises Ehud to be a deliverer. I want y'all to see this. He is called a deliverer. Children of Israel have been crying out for 18 years, and God has raised a deliverer. 18 years is a long time. But in truth be told, that even though 18 years is a long time, it was their fault they were in that mess. I wish I had some help in here. We've come up in a church where we like to tell people that the devil is busy and that the devil is the cause of our problems. Well, I came to tell somebody today that the devil is not always the cause or the root of your problem. Sometimes you are the cause and you are the root of your own problem. I wish I had some help in here. Is that the devil didn't make you do anything. Y'all ain't talking back to me this morning. I thought about it this morning when I got ready to, when I was feeling bad and I wanted to get here. I said, the devil is busy. And I thought about it. He ain't make me eat that cheesecake at 10 o'clock last night. I wish I had some help in here. He ain't make me put that bacon around that pepper stuffed with cream cheese and tear it up like it wasn't no tomorrow. That wasn't the devil, it was me. That sometimes we are drawn away by our own lust and enticed by what we desire, and the devil don't have anything to do with it. I wish I had some help in here. Your bad behavior is your fault. And so while 18 years seem long, sometimes we blame the Lord for what we put ourselves in. And so, but the Lord is gracious enough to hear them, to hear their cry after 18 years, and he raises up a deliverer by the name of Ehud, who happens to be disabled. But he turns his disability into possibility. I wish I had some help in here. Y'all look at the text, he says, he made for himself a sword with two edges. I'm in verse number 16. With two edges, a cubit in length, and bound it on his right thigh under his clothes. Now y'all I tell you, it's this. What I want to bring out of this text might be out of order. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this for the kids in the room. So this is obviously, it's a dagger, right? It's not a long sword. He binds it on his thigh, which is something men don't do. Are y'all with me? Yeah. Because he's bound it close to his genitalia. You finished? Which is something men don't do. But he understands they're not going to check there. Y'all seen this? So I remember one time I was coming through TSA and I was going through the airport and I went off, and the lady says to me that the scan went off here. And she says, we're going to have to check you know where. Lady says to me, would you like for me to get a man? I said, absolutely not. You going to check. So she said, well, I got to get a man to go to look. I don't care what you go get to look, but he ain't touching. Same premise. So he binds this short dagger to his thigh. He goes in to see the king. Y'all watch this. And he presents the tribute to the king. Now the tribute is sort of like attached. It could have been food, it could have been money. Whatever Israel has grown, he's come to present this tribute to the king. Y'all look at this. He presented the tribute to Eglon, the king of Moab. Now, the text wants you to know Eglon was a very fat man. Kind of like I used to be. And when Ahab had finished presenting the tribute, he sent away the people who carried the tribute. But he himself turned back at the idols near Gilgal and said, watch this, y'all. He goes back to the king. This is so cool. So Ahab sends back his people to go on. As he gets to these idols that are built, he turns back, goes back to the king. And watch what he says. He says, I have a secret message for you, O king. I'm reading from the ESV. But the other translations, I'm going to switch to the New King James. He says to him, it says, I have a secret message for you, O king. Some translations say, I have a message from God. Now watch this. So he tells the king that he has a message for him. This text implies that he has a divine message from God for the king. So the king sends out all of the people who are in his chamber. He sends out his staff and his security, and he rises to his feet because the king wants to hear the message from God. Watch what the message is, y'all. And Ahab came unto him, and he was sitting by himself alone in the cool upper room. Ahab said, I have a message from God unto thee. Y'all see that? And he arose out of his seat. Ahab put forth his left hand and took the sword from his right thigh and thrust it into the king's body. Now, let's get analytical. He says to the king, I have a message from God, which is essentially an assassination. Could this truly be a message from God? Here is our theological/biblical conundrum. Is he has been raised up as a deliverer to deliver Israel, and the message he has from God is an assassination. Is this the God we know? What happened to thou shalt not kill? As a matter of fact, if we were to go to Romans chapter 13, the Apostle Paul tells us that we ought to be subject to the authorities that rule over us. That is to say, if we don't like what's happening in Washington, we don't go and shoot Donald Trump, right? That's not what we do. Because as Christians, as people of God, we are supposed to respect the ruling authority. So the question is, and I'm going to pose it to you metaphorically, or should I say, what's the word? Rhetorically. Is this the message from God? A dagger through the body, and an assassination, a killing on purpose in the name of the Lord. Is this God's message? What do y'all think? We don't know. This seems to be contrary to everything the Old Testament and the Bible in general teaches us. Is that we don't assassinate our enemies. As a matter of fact, Jesus would say, turn the other cheek. The Apostle Paul would again say in the New Testament, when he's writing the book of Philemon, that he would tell him to go back to his master who has ruled over him. Everything we know about how we treat our enemies appear to be contrary to the message he has from God. Will God ever call you to assassinate your enemies? I've come to tell you the answer is yes. Y'all come in. Y'all come in. Oftentimes when we hear that somebody has a word from the Lord, we think of joy and happiness. But sometimes the message from God is judgment and death. Oh, I wish I had some help in here. See, folk, when you go tell folk that you got a message from the Lord, everybody is expecting you to say something nice. But every now and then, you got to tell the drug dealer what you're doing is going to land you in a devil's hell. I wish I had some help in here. Every now and then, you got to tell your promiscuous children that living against God is going to land you in hell. Every now and then, you got to tell folk not just the nice and beautiful, pretty words that emanate from the Word of God. But every now and then you got to tell some folk you're on the road to hell if you don't turn around. I wish I had some help in here. That's why I'm totally against lying at people's funerals. That you know Ray Ray and Pookie done been selling drugs and killing folk and all this other kind of stuff. And then we show up at the funeral and some preacher in a nice suit start lying about how we know he's in heaven already. I come today to tell you I got the spirit of Vernon Johns. I tell you he lived like a dog, he died like a dog. And that's just what it is. Every message from God isn't sweet and nice and heartfelt. Every now and then you got to tell somebody God is not mocked. God does not smile on what you're doing. And if you don't stop, you're going to end up in hell. In the movie Color Purple, when Celia is at the end of the table, she says, until you do right by me. She's giving him a message from God. Because my Bible says you reap what you sow. And every now and then you got to tell your enemies, you might be messing with me today, but God's going to get you tomorrow. Y'all ain't talking back to me this morning. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I don't feel good. My stomach's shaking, but I'm going to preach anyway. Every now and then, you got to let some folk know that I'm a child of God. And messing with me might make you end up 6 feet under and carried by 6. Because I am God's anointed. And you don't touch God's anointed. Y'all ain't talking back to me. You might not be a physical assassin, but you might end up being a spiritual assassin. That God has called you to speak truth to power, to let folk know that I've come as a conqueror, and nothing you can do is going to stop the plan that God has for me. He goes in. Eglon is fat. He's fat because he's been spoiled as king. He eats the very best, lives in palaces. As a matter of fact, in this text, he's in his summer palace. He's up on the top, but they've created a special cooling room for the ruling monarch. And there's no air conditioner in their day, and so they create a room with many windows and breezes just so the king can go and relieve himself in the summer. Windows are open. So when Ahud shows up and he tells the king, I'm about done, y'all. He tells the king he has a special message from him. Look at verse number 19. But he himself turned back from the quarries that were by Gilgal and said, I have a secret errand unto thee, O king. And the king said, keep silence. And all that stood by him went out from him. And Ehud came unto him, and he was sitting by himself alone in the cool upper room. Ehud said, I have a message from God unto thee. He arose out of his seat immediately because the king wants to know what God has to say about him. Y'all watch his slickness though. Y'all come in. Watch how slick Ehud is. Ehud doesn't use Yahweh, which is Israel's covenant God. He uses Elohim, which is a generic word for God. He knows what he's about to do, so he doesn't invoke the special name of Israel. He said, I've got a message from a broader name, from Elohim. I've got a message from the Creator. Well, what's the message? Your time is up. Now watch this, y'all. And Ahab put forth his hand, took the sword from his right thigh, thrust it into his body, y'all. Look how hard he hit him. That the haft also went in after the blade. Y'all, the handle went in after the blade. He stabbed the king so hard that the entire blade disappeared into the king's body. Y'all watch this, y'all. And the fat closed upon the blade. You know you got to be fat. The king is probably a contestant or a guest on my 600-pound life. Ahab does this. He stabs him so bad that the king's intestines just fall out of his body. This is how hard Ahab got it. So the text proposes several questions. As a matter of fact, Ahab himself has a couple of things that he has to work out. I want to give you this real quickly. The question is, how does he get access to the king? The answer to that is he brings the king what he wants, the tribute. And it's amazing how, if we're not careful, we will let our guard down when somebody brings us something that we want. I don't want you to miss this. Because for a lot of us, we are willing to shed our morals and our values if the gift is right.
Talk to us.
Let me come a little closer down your street. What won't you do for money? Let me come a little closer. What would you do for a Klondike bar? And make no mistake about it. My father in the gospel used to tell me that the devil knows what you like as much as you do. Oh, I wish I had some help in here. And for some of us, it is not money that is our driving factor. For some of us, it could be our spouse. That you would do whatever it takes to please them to the detriment of your relationship with God. For some of us, it's not our spouse, it's our children, that we would do whatever it takes for our children, even if it means that we go against our morals and values that God has given us. Y'all follow what I'm saying? It is a situation where you oftentimes will be drawn away by your own lust and enticed, the book of James. So how does the devil get access to you? Check what he brings you. Oh, I wish I had some help in here.
Talk to us, preacher.
How does the devil get access to your heart? He knows the gifts to drop off at your door. Are y'all with me? His next conundrum is not only does he have to look at how he gets access to the king, but how does he get a private audience? He tells the king, I have a message from God. Y'all come in, y'all come in. Folk who want to get next to you often know how to use the right words. Oh my goodness. So I'm telling you how good you look. How intelligent you are. Y'all know what I'm talking about. How good you smell, how nice your hair is. Oh, you the best. I'm telling y'all how to get next to me. That's what they begin to tell you. They begin to tell you, I have a message from you that only you need to hear. I need a private audience. And in that audience, they begin to tell you everything that you like. That's why I always say true friends are ones who will tell you what you don't want to hear.
Come on now.
Y'all come here. Everybody around you in your circle can't be yes people. They can't agree with everything you say. You're not that brilliant. You're not that bright. You're not that smart that every single thing you say is golden. Every now and then you're going to say some dumb stuff. Every now and then you need a friend, a person, a spouse, a sister, a brother, somebody to tell you you have lost your mind. I thank God for the people who told me what I needed to hear in the moment I needed to hear it. I stand before you today as somebody who had some people in his life who told him the truth. Let me give you this quick story and I'm done. When I was in Newark, interning with Dr. Lawton, I was dating this girl in college and she had a very difficult medical condition. And she didn't want to do anything about it. She was tired of going to the hospital and all this other kind of stuff. So I'm riding in the car with Dr. Lawton, and I'm expressing to him that I am concerned about her and her medical situation. It's very serious. Like I'm talking near fatal type of situation, but she's been very stubborn and didn't want to do anything about it. Brother Lawton is driving, he'll even look over at me and he goes, "You're not in your right mind." I'm like, is this the answer? I'm telling you about this girl who I think I want to marry? he says, "You're crazy. How old are you?" And I said, "I'm 20. He said, "Dump her." Slapped. Dump her. Actually, his exact words were, "Get rid of her." And I said, "Doc, why would I get rid of that? That's cold language." He said, "Son, do you want to preach or not?" Y'all come here, watch what he said. Watch what he said. Changed my life. He said, "You don't want to be young and sick. You want to be old and sick. And if she won't do what she needs to do for herself now," he said, "it's not going to do anything but hinder you down the road later. You got an assignment for God, and you can't be held back by somebody who won't take care of themselves." Y'all, I couldn't believe he said it to me. It was like a dagger just hit, just pushed through my heart, and I couldn't believe what he was saying. And I tell you this, y'all, that years later, that it's still an issue, still haven't done what she needed to do. And I thank God that there was somebody who was next to me to tell me, "Get rid of her." I'm getting ready to go preach somewhere. I'm getting ready to go somewhere, y'all, because every time I look over at what I have, y'all get ready to make me preach. Y'all get ready to make me preach, y'all. When we ride in the car and I look over at her, I think what he said to me. I said, "Thank God that he spoke truth to me and I listened to, because had I not, I would have missed another blessing." Y'all ain't talking back to me. That's why I thank God for the people in my life who tell me the truth, whether I want to hear it or not. And what those people do will prevent you from making mistakes that alter the rest of your life. So when mama tell you she ain't no good, he ain't no good, you got to listen to the folk who've been there before. Y'all, I got to go to my sheet. I'm done, y'all. Ahab does this, y'all. The last thing I want to ask you, the question is, how does he escape? His last question that he has to ask, how does he escape? He leaves out of the room. He locks the door behind him and escapes another way. Yeah, this is so powerful, y'all. Is that no one suspects that the man with the disability will be an assassin. Ooh-wee. But God can turn your disability into possibilities. Y'all not talking back to me. Y'all not talking back to me. Folk tend to overlook you because of what you don't have. Folk tend to look past you because you don't meet the standard of what a threat might be. I wish I had some help in here. But I came to tell somebody today that regardless of what I look like or what my background says, I'm always a threat. Y'all ain't talking back to me. Whether I got use of my left hand, my right hand, in a wheelchair, a paraplegic, when God raises me up, you better believe I'm a threat. Y'all I'm coming to talk to somebody who got to go to work tomorrow, and your manager think because you nice and calm and sweet, because you don't cuss nobody out, that you not a threat. You better tell them you got another thing coming. You give me a moment to get myself together, and when God says it's time to strike, I'll fire off an email to get everybody in this place fired. Keep trying me, and you will see that I am one of the biggest threats you've ever seen. Might be small, might be short of stature, might be thin, might be bald, might not be as intelligent as everybody may think, might not have the degrees, might not have the accoutrements of success, but if you play with me, you will find out I'm an atomic bomb inside a small frame. Y'all ain't talking back to me. Is there anybody in here who can give the Lord some glory? And I'm done. Because you're one of the biggest threats anybody's ever come across. They just too dumb to realize God raised you up, called you for such a time as this. And if you're not careful, you'll make me detonate on your you know what. The Spirit's still on me, y'all. I came to tell somebody today, I might be down, but I'm not out. I might be sweet, but I'm spicy. I might not have it, but if you play with me, touch your neighbor and say, pray with me, don't play with me. Every disability, God can make it a possibility. I got to stop, y'all, I'm gonna throw up. Y'all go ahead and stand to your feet up there, and I can't go no more.